We spent the day at Tech Talent North Toronto, which was organized by TAP Network that took place last month on October 24th. I sat down with many HR leaders in the Canadian tech space to talk to them about what they're thinking about and focusing on in their work. Here is what they had to say. Check it out.
My next guest on this Unmuted podcast is Michelle Brooks. And so, by the way, I'm Jeff Waldman, the host of the Unmuted podcast. And so we've been recording podcasts from the Tech Talent North Conference in downtown Toronto. This conference is put on by the TAP Network organization, which is a fantastic not-for-profit organization that's based in Vancouver. And they have a presence across Canada. And I've been meeting with HR talent leaders, practitioners, vendors, talking about their personal experiences being here, but also other top HR topics. And so Michelle is actually the head, what's your title? The Chief
People and Culture Officer
for Security Company, which is actually one of my favorite tech companies. I'm biased because I used to work there. So anyway, Michelle, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So, Michelle, obviously, you're one of my longtime network contacts. We go way, way back. So, this year's been tough for the HR community, obviously, the past few years anyway. So, what have you been sort of focusing on in your work? Maybe something that you're thinking about it that is sort of bubbling up to the surface?
Yeah, it's definitely been a tough year in tech specifically, seeing what was a real feast environment over the last couple of years with a lot of talent moving around. And now we're seeing unprecedented turnover that's low, which we want to be happy about because we don't want people to leave our organizations. But that's definitely affecting engagement, right? We want people to stay because they are choosing to stay and they're having really great employee experiences. However, what we're seeing and other organizations in tech are seeing is that people are staying because they are clinging to safety or they're too reticent to try new things. And so I think what's hard now is that's a pretty huge adjustment from what we've seen in the past. And so we're continuing to double down on employee engagement, career development, listening to our team members, and also trying to create that safety and security in these really uncertain times.
So do you think that's going to continue into next year? I mean,
yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, no one has that crystal ball, but we are starting to see some indications of a market pickup in terms of talent. However, I still think it's going to be probably another quarter or two before we see anything material. And then I think it will be a big reshuffle. Right? We'll see, hopefully not the way we saw it in 2022, where it was like
chaos.
Just mayhem.
Yeah.
But what's going to happen is there's going to be there's long since pent up attrition there. And so once it starts, you're going to see people just shuffling from company to company, is what I predict. When, though, I'm not sure.
So what you're saying is it's not going to be like a talent shortage type of problem. It's more people just sort of seeking out, greener pasture, so to speak. But you'll be able to attract people, from other tech companies that are in the area.
I hope so. I think people are just ready for new opportunities, and we definitely want to see folks take those. But we just don't want to have the mayhem that we saw in the past.
I agree with you on that one. So obviously being here at the Tech Talent North Conference, did you speak last year?
No, not last year.
No, but this year you led a panel, right?
Yeah, I was on a panel specifically around rebuilding culture after layoffs.
Oh, okay, very interesting. So what did you talk about at the panel?
Yeah, I think if we think about the common threads that we saw on the panel was really about approaching layoffs with kindness and compassion in terms of thinking about not only the folks that are affected by a layoff, but also how to help the folks who have been left behind and helping them get through the challenges and the grief and that survivor's guilt. So that was a common thread there in terms of change management, communication, and high degrees of empathy was definitely some common threads we saw on that panel. It was great.
Very interesting. So obviously you being here all day, you've also attended other sessions. So has there been a golden nugget that you come across, something that has kind of come up and you're like, that's sort of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, all the sessions have been amazing. I think I had a little like, oh wow moment in the lunchtime keynote, which was more about how to take care of yourself and your energy. And we've been as HR professionals, this is our job. We take care of everyone else. And I had this moment of being like, I'm really taking great care of myself. And so that was an interesting aha moment. And it really is giving me some things to think about how I need to rebuild some of those energy building moments back into my personal day. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to do a great job for the people I'm supporting. So that's one for me personally. We think about on a company perspective, pay transparency is a really big thing we're working on. So some really great nuggets about how to do that in practical terms and how to deal with the outliers and some of the communication that comes from that. Some really great nuggets in that session as well.
It's really interesting that you talked about the self-care, because you're probably the 27th person, that I've spoken to today that has mentioned something about that. And so it's really interesting that remember this kind of came to fruition probably about 2 years ago, but I think people are still talking about it, today. So I'm really glad that the audience here is starting to talk more about it, and it's not a bad thing. So, obviously it's always great to talk to you, and please send my best to the good people back at Security Compass.